My name is Kristen Letts Kovak. I currently have a solo exhibition titled Out of Order at the Abington Art Center. I am an artist. I do primarily drawing and painting, and I'm currently here in my studio in Pittsburgh. I live with a chronic and unpredictable disability, and I'm usually fine, except for when I'm not. And sometimes I am out of order. I also find that my artwork lives in that space that exists between knowing and not knowing, where you feel like you can almost understand what you're seeing, but not quite, that something has left its original point of function. I begin my images with a catalyst in mind, right? With something that I want to pursue, but I have to bend and shift and change along the way and embrace the unexpected. So my images surprise me in the process of making them. A good example would be Primordial Soup, which is in the exhibition. It actually began as two totally separate paintings. There was even a castle in one of them. It looked nothing at all like they are now, but they weren't working. I essentially had to put them in timeout and sort of two siblings conspiring, it came up with its own idea of what it wanted to be, and I needed to embrace what that was. And I think that's very similar to my experience living with chronic illness, that there's an unexpected supplication and change, and okay, we're here now. What are we going to do with this, and how can we make the best of it? And I think the studio is a place where I can embrace all of those unexpected shifts. I don't need clarity. I can let the image lead and see where it takes me. I listen to a lot of audiobooks while I work. It's not a one-to-one relationship between, story and image. I'm working on 5 or 6 paintings at the same time. But what I find is that I use the audiobooks as a way to turn off that over-analytical part of my brain and instead to focus just on the intuition. So when I was working on It Could Go Either Way, my original idea was really, I wanted to have this triangular form and I wanted to have these different color washes. And it really wasn't until it was done that I stood back and looked at it and really started to understand what was happening there. So it was the last painting that I finished right before a major surgery. And at the time, it felt like things could go either way. I didn't know what would happen. And I stood back and looked at the painting and saw, here are these 2 panels, one is dark and one is light. And here is this overarching sort of optimistic swirl that's trying to spread and move its way and to push the darkness out. Predictions from a 3-legged table actually comes from a reference to a novel of a book that I was listening to by Isabel Allende. And there is a section in the book where she talks about being a little kid surrounded by people with this 3-legged table where everyone was trying to predict the future, to come to some sort of sense of emotional clarity. And I very much resonated with the feeling of being sort of small and out of control and wanting to believe that I could put all the pieces together. But in the end, a child brings just as much imagination as they do clarity when they try to predict the future. And that image, I think, is whimsical, and it feels like trying to hold on to something while inventing it at the same time. For me, these works are unexpected and complicated conclusions. They're the feeling of emerging from chaos, and suddenly you realize how bright and vibrant everything around you is. And I think for me, these works are the journey to refinding those places.